What does it mean to be truly free? Most people immediately think about money, power, status, or the ability to do whatever they want. Society teaches us that freedom is something external. We believe freedom comes from having enough resources, enough influence, or enough opportunities. We spend years chasing conditions that we think will finally make us feel free. But what if freedom is not a destination? What if freedom is a mindset? This is the lesson hidden within Monkey D. Luffy's journey. At first glance, Luffy appears simple. He is cheerful, impulsive, adventurous, and often unconcerned with rules, expectations, or social norms. Many people underestimate him because of this. They assume his strength comes from physical power alone. But psychologically, Luffy represents one of the most powerful mindsets in anime. The mindset of freedom. Not freedom from responsibility. Not freedom from consequences, but freedom from psychological chains. Freedom from fear. Freedom from approval. Freedom from limiting beliefs. Freedom from becoming someone you were never meant to be. This is why Luffy resonates with so many people. Deep down, every human being wants freedom. Not just freedom in the world, freedom within themselves. Because many people are trapped without realizing it. Some are trapped by fear of failure. Some are trapped by fear of judgment. Some are trapped by social expectations. Some are trapped by self-doubt. Some are trapped by beliefs they inherited from other people. The tragedy is that these prisons often have no walls. They exist entirely within the mind. Luffy's story challenges this reality. One of the most remarkable aspects of his psychology is that he rarely allows other people's opinions to define him. Think about how rare that is. Most people spend enormous amounts of energy worrying about what others think. They alter their behavior to gain approval. They suppress parts of themselves to avoid criticism. They abandon dreams because they fear ridicule. Psychologists refer to this as external validation. External validation occurs when our sense of worth depends on how others perceive us. The problem is that external validation creates dependence. When your confidence depends on other people's approval, your emotional state becomes controlled by factors outside your influence. You become a prisoner of opinions. Luffy refuses to live this way. He does not seek permission to be himself. He does not ask the world whether his dreams are realistic. He does not adjust his identity to fit expectations. Knows who he is. And that certainty creates freedom. This is one of the most important lessons in personal development. Confidence is not becoming someone everyone approves of. Confidence is becoming comfortable with who you already are. Many people believe freedom means removing obstacles. Luffy teaches something different. Freedom often means removing internal barriers. The barrier of fear. The barrier of insecurity. The barrier of self-rejection. Because even when opportunities exist, people often remain trapped by their own minds. Imagine two people standing before the same opportunity. One acts, the other hesitates. The difference is rarely intelligence. It is rarely talent. Often, it is belief. One person believes possibility exists. The other believes limitation exists. Luffy consistently chooses possibility. This reflects another psychological principle: self-belief. Self-belief is not arrogance. Arrogance says, I am better than everyone. Self-belief says, I trust myself. The distinction matters. Luffy does not spend time proving his superiority. He spends time pursuing his purpose. People who are secure rarely need constant validation. People who know who they are rarely need to convince others. Luffy demonstrates this repeatedly. His confidence comes from conviction, not comparison. This is especially important because modern culture encourages comparison constantly. Social media exposes people to endless examples of success, beauty, wealth, and achievement. As a result, many people evaluate themselves through comparison. Comparison creates a dangerous illusion. It convinces people that their value depends on being ahead of someone else. But freedom cannot exist where comparison dominates, because comparison makes your happiness conditional. There will always be someone richer, smarter, stronger, more successful. If your peace depends on winning comparisons, peace becomes impossible. Luffy escapes this trap entirely. He focuses on his path, his mission, his values, his relationships. This focus creates psychological freedom. Another important aspect of Luffy's mindset is his relationship with fear. Many people assume courage means the absence of fear. Psychology tells us otherwise. Courage is action despite fear. Fear is natural. Fear evolved to protect us. The goal is not eliminating fear. The goal is preventing fear from becoming your master. Luffy experiences danger constantly. He faces uncertainty constantly. Yet he refuses to allow fear to dictate his choices. This is one of the defining characteristics of growth-oriented individuals. They acknowledge fear, but they prioritize purpose. Fear says stay comfortable. Purpose says move forward. Fear says avoid risk. Purpose says embrace possibility. Every meaningful achievement requires choosing purpose over fear. Luffy's life reflects this lesson perfectly. One of the most misunderstood traits in his character is his optimism. People often mistake optimism for ignorance, but true optimism is not denying reality. True optimism is maintaining hope despite reality. This distinction is important. Toxic positivity ignores problems. Healthy optimism believes problems can be overcome. Luffy understands challenges exist. He understands loss exists. He understands setbacks exist. Yet he continues moving forward. This mindset is closely connected to resilience. Resilience is not avoiding adversity, it is recovering from adversity. Life guarantees setbacks. Failure is inevitable. Disappointment is inevitable. Pain is inevitable. The question is not whether difficulty will appear. We respond when it does. Resilient individuals view obstacles differently. Instead of seeing obstacles as evidence they should quit, they see obstacles as part of the process. This perspective transforms everything. A setback becomes feedback. A failure becomes a lesson. A challenge becomes training. Luffy embodies this mentality. No matter how many times he falls, he continues pursuing his vision. This persistence reveals another psychological principle: intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation comes from internal reasons. External motivation comes from rewards, status, or recognition. The problem with external motivation is that it disappears when rewards disappear. Intrinsic motivation endures. Luffy does not pursue his dream because it impresses people. He pursues it because it aligns with who he is. This is why purpose is so powerful. Purpose generates energy. Purpose generates persistence. Purpose generates meaning. When people connect deeply with a meaningful purpose, they become remarkably resilient. They tolerate difficulties others cannot. They endure challenges others avoid. They remain committed when others quit. Because purpose transforms effort. What once felt like sacrifice begins feeling worthwhile. Luffy's relationships also reveal an important lesson about freedom. Many people think freedom means independence. They assume freedom requires avoiding dependence on others. But psychological research consistently shows that meaningful relationships enhance well-being. Humans are not designed for isolation. We are designed for connection. Luffy demonstrates a healthy balance. He remains authentically himself while building deep relationships. He does not lose his identity within relationships, nor does he isolate himself from them. This balance reflects emotional maturity. The healthiest people are both independent and connected. They can stand alone when necessary, but they also know how to trust, support, and be supported. He emerges from this quality. People follow him not because he controls them. They follow him because he inspires them. There is a difference between authority and influence. Authority relies on power. Influence relies on character. Luffy inspires others because he embodies the freedom many people desire. He encourages people to believe in themselves, to pursue their dreams, to reject limitations, to live authentically. This is why his impact extends beyond physical battles. He changes mindsets, and changing mindsets changes lives. Perhaps the deepest lesson in Luffy's story is that freedom begins internally. Many people postpone freedom. They say, "I'll be free when I make enough money. I'll be free when I achieve success. I'll be free when circumstances improve." But external conditions are always changing. If freedom depends entirely on circumstances, freedom remains fragile. Luffy teaches a different philosophy. Freedom begins with thought. Freedom begins with identity. Freedom begins when you stop allowing fear, doubt, and external expectations to control your choices. This does not mean life becomes easy. Luffy's life is anything but easy. It means difficulty no longer determines who you are. You remain aligned with your values regardless of circumstances. You remain committed to your purpose regardless of obstacles. You remain true to yourself regardless of opinions. That is freedom. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson Monkey D. Luffy leaves us with. The strongest prison is not made of steel. It is made of fear. The strongest chains are not placed on your hands. They are placed on your mind. And the moment you stop letting fear, doubt, comparison, and approval control your life, you become free. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Because true freedom is not a place you arrive at. It is a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of being. And once you discover it, no one can take it away from you.